So Spirit really came through to me after I was reading a post from this amazing lady's Facebook page. Her Facebook page is called Cacklecraft, and I will link her in the description below. She's amazing. And every Wednesday she has Wisdom Wednesday, where she asks you a question, like a really thought-provoking question, and wants to know your honest answers and opinions. And let me pull this up. This week's was really good, and it triggered a message from Spirit. Hold on one sec. But yeah, definitely follow her. She is a beautiful soul. Where's the post? Yeah, for her Wisdom Wednesday post, she said, "Why do we fear the unknown?" And so my answer to that was, we feel a sense of certainty and control when we know things. When we don't, we fear not knowing how to handle anything. When really life is simply about figuring things out as we go rather than having all the answers at once. And shortly after I answered that and I reread my response, immediately I thought of the Garden of Eden story, right? And how we really demonize Eve, and we really demonize that entire story into saying they tapped into things that were forbidden and stuff like that. And realistically, what happened was Adam and Eve took on too much information at once because they wanted to know what would happen. And they had enough at their disposal right then and there that they had to work with, but because they were tempted to know more, to do more, to experience more, and they wanted to know and tap into the unknown like all of us do, they took on a little too much at once. And it was overwhelming. Okay? It's kind of like when the fallen angels taught human beings all the things, right? It's not that it was forbidden in the case of we're not allowed to know these things. It's just that when you go from 0 to 100 like that, that's a lot. That's too much all at once. And that's what I received. It was like all at once, like we need to take our time learning. We need to take our time absorbing, retaining, practicing, applying. Stop looking for the instant downloads and instant activations and things like that. Really understand what you're doing and why. Really research, sit with things, chew on them, meditate, reflect, be in silence for a little bit. You know, form a relationship with these spirits you want to learn from. Be respectful. You know, don't just want instant download all the time. And I know it's hard, especially because we have the internet where there's just constant information at our disposal. And I think that's miraculous, to be honest. As a learning junkie, I love that. But I also need to take my time with things and chew on them. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I've had downloads from Spirit before that were so overwhelming that I even had to say, whoa, hold on. This is a lot. Let me process this. Like, you're giving me way too much at once. Okay? So we fear that unknown sometimes because we want to know all the things. But the thing is, if you know too much at once, it's overwhelming. That can cause anxiety. That can cause depression. And you think you're in a state of control, but you're actually in a state of anxiety and impatience. The thing is, you're never going to know everything. But whatever you want to know now, take your time with it. Treat it like any relationship. You don't want to rush the relationship. You don't want to rush the person. You don't want to rush the whole situation. You want to get to know the person and let them get to know you, right? Well, the same goes for anything we are learning and wanting to know more about. If you really want to know it, devote to taking your time with it, retaining, absorbing, applying, learning, really learning. Okay? That's the message. I don't know why I feel like I need to share that. Spirit gave me that image in my head of like, yeah, these were things we were meant to strive for, but not like, have it all just instantly downloaded like Neo in the Matrix where he just instantly knows Kung Fu. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. It's overwhelming, especially because we do have access to these platforms where you can literally learn a whole, listen to a whole book and then scroll to the next thing. Like, process. Thing is, we use that word a lot too, and this is something I'm hearing. We use that word a lot too of I'm processing. Are you though? Or are you just kind of marinating? Are you just kind of sitting but not really processing? Does that make sense? A process means it has a process. It has a method of motion so that everything is integrated. But just sitting there and in overwhelm is not processing anything, okay? Because that overwhelm is what causes this trigger reaction to, I want to learn something else now. Because you're not, and the reason why you're in that anxiety is because you're not processing and really applying and allowing things to settle that you've absorbed. Okay? So when you're on these platforms, when you're on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, TikTok, I have my things with TikTok, but that's a story for another day. I believe all these platforms can be used for good or not. So I'll just leave it at that. And it really depends on the program you're tuning into, where your mind is going, right? These platforms are a blessing. Treat it as such. You get access to free information for the most part, right, on these platforms. But take it and absorb it. Don't overwhelm yourself to a point of depression and anxiety and overwhelm. And then you tap way too much too fast into all the things, and then you think it's demons coming after you. Okay? Because I've seen that too. That's something I'm being told I need to speak on right now too. I've seen that happen more than once. Where somebody dives a little too deep into the pool without really absorbing things, without really studying, without properly applying. And then they overwhelm themselves. They get themselves into such a state that now they think they're demonically possessed or that they opened a door to something evil. And really what it is that you tapped into an area that triggered something in you that is unhealed or not ready or whatever. And now you're running backwards because you think it's evil that's coming after you. And that's kind of like what happened with this story with, the Garden of Eden, with the Watchers, with all of that stuff. Is that, people got way too much too fast and it became a source of despair for them. And they went a little cuckoo with it because it's way too much information for one person to handle. Way too much power at once for a person to handle when they don't know how to wield these certain skills and these pieces of information. You know what I'm saying? So don't do that to yourself. Be willing to strive for the things you're passionate about learning, but also be a devoted and dedicated student. Be devoted and dedicated to the relationship you want to build with the work you're doing, with the studies you're engaged in, with the spirits you want to speak with. And you won't get that. You won't get that overwhelm. You won't get that anxiety. You won't be sitting, in a corner rocking back and forth thinking that you're demon possessed. Okay? So I just had to put that out there. That is my spirit medicine message for right now. That is how spirit came to me, and if more comes to me, I will absolutely share it. I would love to know your thoughts on what I just said, and if anything comes to mind for you as I'm speaking on these things. But just be careful. Proceed with caution. Proceed with respect. Proceed with patience. Proceed with persistence and a willingness to take your time. You have plenty of it. I know it doesn't seem that way. But if you can carve out some time to study these things appropriately and properly, it will all pay off. Even if you just have an hour a day, that's a lot of hours in a year that you can devote to your studies and doing these things properly and and not losing your mind in the process. Okay, does that make sense? I love y'all. I will let you go for now. And again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to bring up in the comments below, I'd love to hear from you. If you want to keep this going privately, you can email me or you can find me at the links below. And I will also link Cacklecraft on Facebook. You should definitely follow her. She's a wonderful soul. And so are you. Bye for now.